I'm doing a video potentially on Craig Ferguson. So I'm doing a lot of research on Craig Ferguson. He appears to be universally liked. Even today, his comments are largely positive. People, I miss him, blah, blah, blah. Could his show exist in 2020?
No.
For those of you who don't know Craig Ferguson, he tons of sexual innuendo in a way that his guests almost always seem to enjoy in a very safe, playful way. He's married. No scandals came out from the show. Could he make the same fun, beloved show today?
I do not think so. And
Isn't
I'll
that
add
a bummer?
Yeah, well, I just watched a Daniel Tosh episode and I was like, this cannot be on the air. The running gag he does the web redemptions is that there was a 17-year-old girl on a cruise ship and the gag is that she's hot and he wants to sleep with her. And she's 17, but
Okay.
it's international waters. So it's totally cool now, and goodbye, goodbye career, goodbye all of this. And Daniel Tosh already got shut down for a joke. But it's Craig Ferguson couldn't do it. And it's strange because
Daniel Tosh is controversial. I actually would throw him out for the sake of this conversation because some people hate him. Some people find him very offensive.
Yes, and he's purposely told many upsetting jokes in the past.
So I would throw him out. He's a bit of he's trying to toe the line.
He's being edgy.
What's appropriate. Craig Ferguson, all of his guests, I love being on here. They come back 6-7 times. Like there's just a sense that he's doing something people like to watch and like to participate in.
I would be willing to bet that there was someone who didn't like it.
Well, it even makes making this video hard because there's advice that you have to couch because even though it's good flirting advice, people might not recognize that it's good. It's useful when flirting with 80% of the population, but not 20% of the population. And that's okay. 20% of people are allowed to not like you. You can say a joke that people don't enjoy. That happens all the time in non-sexual relationships too. We do not no one is universally liked. Even the nicest, kindest person aggravates someone. You're a woman who's as kind as could be, but a bit of a try-hard. And we just found out that someone hates her because she was just trying to be liked. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So like, I think it's totally fine if you have something that you have in your personality that 80% of people enjoy and 20% don't enjoy.
That's no longer okay on television.
But I can't say that in the video, you know what I mean? Or I feel restricted. I can say whatever I want. But to say, oh yeah, do this. And most people are going to laugh and love it, but there's some part of the population that won't like it. And by the way, just that's the end of the conversation. Like don't continue pursuing that part of the population.
Well, I guess as I sit here, easy for me to say as I sit here and it's your voice, but it is, the channel that we share. I want to encourage you to tell the truth as best you can.
Well, the thing is, I'm going to make 100%, or I'm going to try to make 100% of the video be good advice. But the thing is, am I going to include 100% of the good advice I could give based on Craig? No. I'll just tell you straight up, I'm not. You know what I mean? So that's the interesting realm I find myself in when making this video.
There has to be, at some point, I believe, a pendulum swing back. And I guess it's just nice to be on the tip of the spear when you're going in the other direction. So
Sure.
So I'm not saying that you have to go crazy, but I would just put it in your brain that if it is true that you can give good advice, and there's realms of, you don't need to talk about sex in its explicit, here's the dynamics of how to be a good sexual partner or anything like that.
No, but okay, let's talk about that. Flirting can go very well if you steer the conversation towards sex. It can also feel very creepy if you put the conversation towards sex. So there's a way in which one does it, and I think Craig does it very well. But when you tell 200,000 people to do that, some of them will do it poorly, especially in the process of learning how to do it well. Like a lot of them do it poorly. So you're creating these people who will go out and like eventually get good at this, but the first time they do it, they'll say something that people find creepy or off-putting. And then the question is, are you advocating for creepy behavior? It's like, no, I'm advocating for this thing that Craig does, which is largely extremely charming.
What's interesting is that
because he makes every conversation, he bangs it towards the topic of sex.
I've watched Craig, and what I would say is that what he does well is he makes it their idea.
Not every time. Okay. Some of the time.
Sometimes he comes in with strong innuendo.
That's the safe advice.
Yeah.
That's the advice that can go in the video.
Sure.
But there's other times that he just fucking
brings up sex.
Just forces
sex. It's in an uncomfortable...
Sorry, not forces sex. Forces the conversation of sex.
Sure. So I think what's interesting is if you think, what does creepy mean? Because creepy is a feeling that in this case, women get without necessarily much rational. It's just a feeling that comes up.
And I think everyone, not everyone, sorry. I think a large portion of both men and women would agree that the same words can come from two different people, and it can be extremely attractive, fun, and flirty, or creepy based on looks, social status, delivery, confidence, clothing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think that both men and women would say, yeah, the same sentence can get said, and it can either be creepy or it can be charming.
And this is the difficult thing, is that if creepy is, which I interpret it to be, it's an unwanted sexual advance. But what makes it unwanted isn't that that person hates sexual advances or could never be interested in a sexual advance from a person of that particular look. It's that the self-confidence that is said, the delivery, the playfulness, the environment, all of those other things.
I think it's huge. Yeah. I mean, and again, I would list their look, their status, like some combination, and you don't need all these things, but some combination of looks, status, confidence, delivery, that's voice intonation, what you're wearing, like the setting.
Exactly.
That's what defines the sentence being perceived as creepy or charming. And there's some sentences that are just always creepy, but like, I remember we have a
There's not. There are no sentences that are always creepy.
Can I say we have a friend who's a very strong feminist.
Yeah.
And she once met a guy whose first line was, you have amazing lips. I bet you give great blowjobs.
Yeah.
In a vacuum, if she were sitting on this couch as part of the podcast, and I told this story, but it hadn't happened to her yet, she'd say that was appalling. That's atrocious. That guy deserves to get slapped in the face. In real time, what happened was she went back to the guy's apartment and gave him a blowjob.
Not immediately. No, and again, it was
hour
playful.
Later, it wasn't weeks later.
I agree.
It was that night.
I know.
So here's what I'm saying. So this is a strong, well-educated feminist woman who in that moment had a guy open the conversation by saying, you have beautiful lips. I bet you give great blowjobs.
Yeah.
And she did not find it creepy.
Yes.
But would have said, that's the creepiest effing line that a guy could possibly start a conversation.
Sure.
Which is why what I'm saying is this is such a nuanced thing. And so it's especially, when I'm making a video, when you're not the person who's hearing a line from Craig Ferguson, but you're the person sitting at the computer listening to me describe Craig Ferguson and then watching clips of him from afar.
Yeah.
It's just tough to give. And I'm trying to figure out how one gives this advice in a way that people even believe it. Because that if I told her a month prior that would have happened to her, she would have said I was a lunatic.
Yes.
So the question is, how do I even package this in a way that is digestible? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't have the answer for you, but as I'm thinking through the problem is that the same thing, same word, same this is creepy from one person at one point in their life and not creepy and extremely attractive from another person. And part of what you were saying is that, okay, let's say that you're in that category of uncomfortable, low self-esteem guy that just didn't grow up being super cool in school. Yep. How do you move from the creepy column, which is like, oh, that guy's showing any level of interest is just, I'm not, even if he's just asking me on a date, it's not creepy, but it's like, how dare you deign or not? Why would I deign to go on a date with you? How do you move from that pile to the other pile if you're not allowed to at any point be creepy? Yeah. Like if you can't, it's kind of like, hey, you're not a talented shot in basketball. You need to make every shot for the rest of your life. You're not allowed to miss.
You've never bench pressed before. I need you to bench press 225 pounds in 1 year.
Yeah.
But you can't do any push-ups or bench press. It
can only be 225.
Yeah,
it can only be 225.
It's like, well, wait, I can get there. I can do this.
Yeah.
I need a year of solidly working up to it with lower weight.
Yeah.
Or and I'm going to, by the way, the first time I try it, I might miss and need a spotter, but eventually I'll get there.
Yeah.
It's like, no, you have to bench 225 and you can only bench 225, no spotters ever. That's an impossible task.
Well, I think what we're negotiating as a society, and clearly there's too far. Like if that guy, that worked, and you know what? He might have the fucking swagger and the eye and that has never gone poorly for him in his entire life. Mm-hmm. That's totally a possibility. Let's just pretend that it is. The question remains: what if you're not that
and the other person? And by the way, I'm not even saying
you don't have to take that.
I've ever used
Sorry. Here's what I was going to say. There's got to be something in between. Give me a blowjob, and
hi, can I buy you?
Hi, madam. You know, like, could I speak to your father and ask his permission to court you? And as a society, we're negotiating where that line is. But I think undeniable is that it's weird. You have to allow for some level of sexual advance to be rebuffed. You have to as a society. But it seems like we're increasingly getting to the stage where it's any sort of level of interest that it's that line is just moving back and back and back to you're not allowed to express that you are interested in me because that is creepy coming from you. Well, so now there's two piles of people that are getting farther and farther apart.
Even societally, even when I was growing up, we had this weird thing where it's like if you ask someone out and they say no, that's embarrassing to you. Your friends will laugh at you, or her friends will laugh at you or something. Instead of a world where it's like, I find you attractive. Would you like to go out with me? No, thanks. I don't find you attractive. Okay, sounds good. Carry on. And then you walk away. And that, in my opinion, has to be considered a positive. Like, you had the courage, you asked, you respected her answer. If that felt creepy to the person being asked out, to some extent, I think we have to go, that's okay. If the question is, hey, I like you and I think you're attractive, would you go out with me? No. I find it's creepy that you asked. Unless let's say it's not work, it's not any weird extent, they're not cousins. Like, throughout all the extreme circumstances, I guess you have to live in a world where creepy is okay some of the time.
Work is even one of the difficult ones. Okay, let's say it's not her boss. Let's say it's her peer. This is where people meet, is in the workplace.
Yeah.
You know,
I have so many friends that are literally married to coworkers.
So what, are you not allowed to ask a coworker of your same rank out on a date at this point? Well, only if you're the person that's going to get a yes is the answer. And this is the difficult thing. It's and unfortunately what we're doing, I watched a video of Mark Normand, who is a comedian. He was on the Joe Rogan podcast. He's got that dry delivery.
He always says that I'm Kevin Hart, thanks and good night.
Yeah. So he was on some radio show and they're talking about a plus size model and he was never heard of. And he goes, oh yeah, she's a cow. And everyone erupts. Oh, and he's never heard of her. He's just purposely cracking a joke. He's never seen her. But then he does continue to go on and he plays up the role of, no, not into that. No. For me, you know, he's got that whole delivery thing. And everyone in the room is laughing. Yeah. Everyone in the room is laughing. I presume everybody on the radio is laughing. And he's going to get away with that. Now, maybe not for many more years, but what I see is society being, I was looking at the other guys in the room. I was like, if you said that, you're fired. If you say that, you're fired.
Yeah.
He can say that. Why? Because he is in a protected class. But it's not that protected. And the protections are shrinking on the class of comedians. And we're increasingly split into two groups of people. There's the people that are capable of making racy jokes and have set up that, like, Dave Chappelle can say whatever the fuck Dave Chappelle wants. Period. About anything. He's you know what I mean? Joe Rogan is getting there. But he's got the podcast. He can't say it with the wrong person. There's people that can crack jokes and there's people who are allowed none. Yeah. And there's people that can ask on dates and say, you know, you would probably give a great blowjob and there's none. And then there's it's weird. There's this weird stratification of society, it seems like, at every level. Income and who can crack jokes and who can say racy things. And it's like, if you don't know that you're in the category of the people that can, then you can't.
Yeah.
Then you can't.
Well, my question, I guess, is what if you're trying to jump camps?
It's a dangerous time to do that, is what I would say. And I guess the solution is, if I had one and I could give advice or have a billboard to everyone, is to increase your threshold at what point you're offended as best you can. Increase the threshold at which point you try to end someone's career, get them a talking to, etc. But because there are people out there that don't do this, protect your physical boundaries, protect your job, protect your income, which is to say that if your boss is coming on to you and you think that your job is online, fucking protect yourself. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I can see both sides of it, and it almost seems like the unintentional, or maybe, I don't know if it's intentional or not, consequences of trying to protect people from abuse from people in power, like the Cosbys, like the hey, you got to do this if you want to get on stage, you got to blow me type stuff, is that young men that are little bit odd and uncomfortable are stuck, unable to jump from like, I don't know how to speak to a girl in a semi-sexual manner without being creepy, and I may never get the chance to learn because I cannot make a mistake.
No, and so what I'm trying to figure out is if there are these two camps, I'm studying someone who's clearly in the, when I say this stuff, it goes well 95% of the time camp. How do I give advice to both camps based on this person? You know what I mean? So that's what
you have the impossible job of speaking to an audience that you can't see. That's 200, 500,000, a million people. And your aim is to not piss any of them off. So what I would suggest is that, and it's easy for me to say because I'm not making this video.
Well, I'll just say I'm Charlie before. Hey guys, this is Charlie.
That's Kevin Hart.
This is Charlie with Charisma on Command.
Change your aim is what I would say. Try to help. Consider men, consider women. You know what I mean? Like, try to do the utilitarian best thing that you could, considering that, like, look, if I give this piece of advice, a bunch of uncomfortable, awkward dudes are going to go ruin a bunch of women's days. So I can't go that far because that could be too easily misinterpreted, too easily spread. But also, I need to help the awkward 17-year-old crack a joke that is flirtatious, that is a little bit dangerous, that is a little bit...
I'll give a little bit of a spoiler, a little bit of a teaser. But I think the solution is I'm going to say, here's what he does. Here's an example. He misinterprets things. He, thankfully, misinterprets them sexually sometimes, but not sexually other times. So you, as a person, should learn this skill and figure out what you want to do it. But like, so sometimes people will say something and he'll, I don't know, Craig, I dropped the ball. And he's like, well, it's okay. Just pick it up and keep going. It's a sexual misinterpretation. But other times this woman, Miranda Kerr, says, I play a little piano. Do you play a small piano or a little bit of piano? You know what I mean? Just saying as if she's saying, I play a small size piano. And so I'm just going to show both and be like, listen, this is what he does. He misinterprets. Sometimes sexually, sometimes not. Both are funny. Sexual has the ability to create sexual tension. You run the risk of being creepy. And there you go. That's point one, is misinterpret. And now we're on to point two. So yeah, I'm going to try to pick things that can go either direction. Player's option, what way you want to do. I'm going to show examples of both. I'm going to try to find 5 things like that.
I think it deserves a final paragraph about intuition and social intuition and developing it, which is to say, look, I'm trying my best to give you an algorithm, but none exists, right? Like, for the right time, the right place, the this, the that, the lighting, if she's just out of a relationship and is really looking to get into, like, I can't possibly do this. So what I encourage you to do, keep your eyes and ears open. Try to be a good person, and just something on intuition at the end, which is a recognition that I can't possibly give you a playbook for all of this. I can give you principles and pointers and tell you how things might push you in one direction or the other. But
luckily, Craig does calibrate too. So there can be a point in there about how, like, this is him noticing he's gone too far, and pulling back. Like he doesn't bash down the door. He knocks on the door. They don't answer. He just pulls back a little bit.
Sure.
So
no, I want to think more on this because it's like you said, it's fraught with so many different people are listening. Because I'm aware as I'm talking, I'm like, I'm talking to the young 17-year-old guy who's nervous, but I also have to be cognizant of the 30-year-old woman who has had her 35-year-old boss try to bang her in the office for a promotion. It's like, how do I possibly give advice about men and women that accounts for both of those situations and everything in between?
Well, here's the other thing. If I were coaching, I used to do coaching, one-on-one coaching, right? If I'm talking to a guy and he's like, I've never asked a girl out. I've never said anything inappropriate. I feel very scared of this. I'm like, we need to push you to do more. If I'm talking to a guy who's really loud and he's like, I constantly make sexual jokes and they go terribly.
They go over like the Hindenburg.
Like, I need you to not take things sexual for a week, never make a sexual joke, see if your results improve. You know what I mean? Like, I'm going to custom tailor my coaching to fit the person. And if they're loud or if they're quiet, if they're sexual or if they're not, you know what I mean? And so it's like, all right, well, the good news is this video will be seen by both of them and 300,000 other people.
Yeah. It's one of the cool but really difficult things, and this is what the Reinventing Organizations book. So we talked about spiral dynamics in a Patreon video. By the way, if you guys want to join, you could check that out.
Oh, is that Patreon only?
I think that was Patreon. Spiral dynamics. Yeah.
Oh, nice. Where is our Patreon? Patreon.com/Charisma
on Command.
Nice.
Yeah, it'll be in the description. But a brief. So we talked about the different stages of organizations. The one that we skipped over from orange to what this one calls teal is this green. The green is everybody gets a vote. everybody gets a say.
Yeah, we're a family.
We're a family and love, and we will always find a way. And consensus is, pure consensus is the only way. That is an impossible aim.
Yeah.
And it's a utopian vision that always fails and is always frustrated. And I just think of that in terms of what you're doing when you're making this video is you just can't please everybody. You have
2% of people will not like it. I know that from the thumbs up, thumbs down. At least 2%.
No, some might hate it. Might hate it. So yeah.
Which means thousands of people. More people than I will see in a month will hate it.
Yeah.
No, and the other thing is with advice, the part that's tricky, again, it'd be much easier to do a video for one person. Is like, when you want to shoot a basketball, you want your elbow to be tucked in and you want to be 90 degrees from the thing, unless you're coaching Reggie Miller.
Yeah.
And then you just say, Reggie, your elbow is out by your ear and you are the best shooter ever. Just do your thing. Yeah. We're going to work on dribbling. You know what
footwork.
I mean? We're not even going to bother with, we're going to worry about getting you shots, but we're not going to touch your shot at all. If Reggie were trying to learn from YouTube, he'd be trying to pull his elbow in, even though he shoots the best percentage for threes of his generation or whatever it might be. So that's the mass education thing is something that just in general is always tough to be like. That's why Hugh Jackman's so great to cover. Everything he does is just good. You know what I mean? Like,
what do you mean?
He's happy. He smiles. He remembers your name. He makes eye contact. He treats everyone like his advice
is so much more broad spanning.
Everyone would benefit from learning from Hugh Jackman. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Robert Downey Jr., beloved, a little more nuance. Like now you got to be a little bit careful. If everyone tried to mimic Robert Downey Jr., not everyone would get better results than they currently get. Some people at first would miss and they'd be perceived as dicks.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They would get it right if they kept trying and trying and trying. But yeah, there's some people when we do a video, it's just like, just try your best to be Hugh Jackman.
Harry Styles is one of those who's super charismatic, but it's tough to advise like when to be so laconic, when to crack. It's tough to do that. But I will, even just for the sake of being pedantic, you're still thinking in an American context. Take Hugh Jackman to Egypt and be like, no, that's not.
I make videos in English. The Arabic guy can choose whether to translate.
My point is, there is no everybody. There's no piece. Smile. Somebody doesn't like smiles. I probably, So there is no everybody. There's only what won't get the loud, angry internet people on you. And Hugh Jackman happens to not trigger that crowd of people, but it doesn't mean
sure. And weirdly enough, I have a friend who's similar to him, who I've seen be very charming in a lot of European countries and South American countries.
Somebody doesn't like him.
We get translated into Russian. Our advice tends to. So actually, I think it's more cross-cultural than I would have initially thought.
Sorry, I didn't mean to say that it couldn't go cross-cultural. I just meant that somebody doesn't like that friend.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody doesn't like him for exactly the reason that most other people do.
Yeah.
Can't please everybody is all. Ever with anything. Hope that you guys enjoyed that clip. If you want to see more like this and have us do more podcasts, we are 100% funded by our generous patrons. And if you'd like to contribute, there's a link in the description, and we'll have one pop up on the screen right here so that we can do more podcasts where we have fun conversations and hopefully some deep ones like this. Either way, hope that you enjoyed the video, and I will see you in the next one.